Hey guys, I'm Big Mike, and like always, I'd like to thank you for being here today. Today we have a webinar with Brian Murphy from CTS Futures. He's here to show the CTS T4 Autospreader, as well as talk about chart trading and talk about some of the new options with CME market data fees, including a delayed option that does not have a fee associated with it. As always, the webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be posted on our YouTube channel sometime tomorrow. As you guys have questions, you can type them into the questions box, and Brian will do his best to answer those questions today. Give me 1 second, and I'm going to turn things over to Brian and get us started. All right, Brian, you should see the option now to share your screen.
Okay, I clicked that.
And there we go. Okay, looks good. Thanks, Brian.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thanks, Mike, as always, for being a gracious host and setting this up. And thanks, everyone, for taking a few minutes out of your day to listen to CTS. So, like Mike said, I'd like to talk about a couple of topics today. I believe probably many months ago we talked about an Autospreader type of feature that we finally made some good advancements on. Chart trading is something that we actually launched live a few months ago. And again, to recap some of the delayed data options and what the CME has started charging for their market data. So to begin with, I'm going to start off doing our Autospreader. And we'd actually like to call this a sniper in some ways, and I'll tell you why. These orders are going to sit client-side on your PC. One reason we're explaining with that to begin with is that we have no chance of running into any type of message violations. And for those of you out there who have done a lot of spreading in the past, you know, as you work orders and they move around the marketplace, the CME, especially, I believe ICE as well, have a fill to order ratio that they like to watch for. So if you do a lot of spreading, you're very active, but you're cautious on getting fills, a lot of times you can get a warning of what you can call, the CME calls a message violation. So this is one way we can avoid that. The orders go in as like a meter cancel. So if there's a fast market and we think we can grab something, you know, goes in there. If we get it, you know, great. We think there's a lot less chance of getting hung, but because of the immediate or cancel feature that we put on the order, you don't have to worry about it working and having the market bounce back and hit it. So let me take a second and show you where it is. For those of you who have CTS, you'll know our drop-down menu here on top, and for those of you who don't, we hit our main drop-down menu here, and it kind of gives you a list of options of everything we have that you can create and use. And so at the bottom here, we have what we call our strategy sniper. So these are some templates that we've created, but I'm going to do one from scratch so we see. And since it's 3:30, I'm going to do a financial one just because I know they're still open. So as I sit here and say create new, it's going to bring up this template. And I can name it whatever I want. I'm going to do a knob, notes and bonds, so I'm just going to call it a knob. When I calculate the knob, I like to do net change. We give you two choices to calculate prices, and that's net change or the actual price. Now on the front page here, we also give you a couple different parameters that you can check off. Some of this is related to what we'll see in the leg side, but let me just cover these while we're here. So back out strategy and back out strategy with open positions. What this is saying if you had an opportunity where, let's say you're working these notes and bonds, and your bonds get rejected for whatever reason. It could be a risk management reason, it could be an exchange reason, you know, a bad price, whatever the reject may be, but the notes are not being rejected. We have a back out strategy for saying if those notes go in and get filled, what do you want the system to do? So we have a back out strategy that says, okay, you know, go ahead and try to scratch that trade for me. So if I bought, you know, 10s in the notes, it puts in an order to try to sell me 1 to 10. The difference between these different options is with a back out strategy, that's what it tries to do. We also have that same back out strategy only with opening positions. And the one at the bottom that we just recently created is back out at we call top of book price. And what that's doing is saying if we happen to buy those notes at 10, we assume that it's offered at 10. This is giving the choice to go ahead and have us put in a limit order to sell it at 9. Go ahead and just take the pick loss and get out. Whereas the top back out strategy is go ahead and enter the order at 10 to try to scratch it. And as I mentioned earlier, the orders that we put in on the spreader are immediate or cancel. The back out ones are the only orders that go in as limits. And I'll show you that we have some slop involved with that as well. So if I actually go into the leg section, I can sit there and add a leg. So I know the symbol for notes is ZN. I'll punch that in there, scroll down and add my notes. And with the notes, I'm going to trade, I believe, the top of March. I'm going to leave that as a buy, and I'm going to do what the exchange has been doing lately and do a 2-to-1. Then we have other choices you can make, the leg multiplier, leg slop, leg pay up, the snipe, and the back out. So I'm going to cover the back out first just because that's what we kind of just touched on the front page. This back out leg step is kind of like a slop feature for the back out. So in my first example, when I talked about buying a note at 10 and either offering that 10 or going and sell the 9s, this is where the slop comes in. So if I go ahead and change that to a 1 and then a 2, I'm basically saying, you know, give me 2 more ticks. If you go in and try to do the 10s and can't get them, then I'm asking for 2 ticks of slippage or slop so I don't have to sit there and just be hung on the order. There's no reason I can't leave that at 0 and let it work there, because no matter what I do in the system, I still have my order book that I see these orders and can manually manipulate these orders and revise these orders. We just add that back out feature in there so we quickly can put in an order when you may not realize that you got hung or got rejected. So going back to the top, we have a leg multiplier. The leg multiplier can be different for different markets. You know, for example, it will do a multiplier for every single leg price. So if I would put a 1 in there, it's just going to be a 1-to-1. Depending on what products you're looking at, for example, you'll see when I set this up that I'm going to leave that at 1. And then as I add in my bonds, which I know is ZB, I'm going to also make that a March. I'm going to make this a sell. I'm going to leave my trade ratio at 1 because I'm going to do a 2-to-1. I'm going to make this multiplier a half. That's how I run that. And then for leg slop, what we're doing is leg slops to say, for those of you who trade a knob, you know, I put the knob in terms of being weak or strong. So if I know the knob is trading 1 strong, I may be, you know, I'm trying to buy it, let's say, at even. So what leg slop is saying that if I leave it 0, it's just going to work my evens. If I put a 1 in there, it's going to say, yeah, I like to buy it even, but if you can buy it at 1, go ahead and do it. So you give yourself a little more room to go in and get the fill. Then what the leg pay up is after you were to get 1 leg, this will be the number of kind of slop or pay up that I want to do on my second leg. And if you notice that each parameter has these, so everything we do is per leg. So if I'm working this knob based on the notes, I may give the notes a little room so I can get on that trade a little easier, but I may not do it on the bond side. So you got to remember everything that you set up through this sniper is by leg. It's not for the whole spread. It's by the leg. So I can make that 1, and I can also make my pay up 1. And as you saw me do, I added my bonds in there. I made it the same month to sell, obviously, the side for a 2-to-1 ratio. And now I can click Create. And once I click Create, you notice that it gives me my knob, excuse me, up in the corner here is a custom strategy. I now can click Trade. So what happens is we create a market for this spread just like you would see anything else. I can also click on here and say look at the legs. So I'll automatically put up the 10s and the notes as the 2 outright markets. So I can see all 3. I can see my spread that I'm working and I can see the 2 outlets. And this contract works just like in trading in our normal contracts. In other words, I put a volume up here, you know, I can work 1 here, I can work 1 there. Well, the spread works the same way. So if I want to sit there and try to buy this spread 1 week, you know, that's where I'm putting the order. And you can see in the order book here that I'm working here 1 at -1. So just because that's a spread price you put in, that's what you're going to see. It's not moving too much up. If I drag my order here and get filled, you notice that it tells me that I'm long 1. On my 2 legs, it tells me that I'm short a bond and long 2 notes, which is my 2-to-1 ratio. And if I look down here in my order book, I can actually see that I was working on. I moved it up to 5, and then you see my 2 legs. So you get a breakdown of the spread price that is calculated and the 2 legs. And like any order, as you saw me do, I can now put in the other side to sell it. I can drag and drop that to different prices, put in multiple cells. It's working like every other window we have in terms of buys or sells. The other nice part about once you create this spread market is you saw me pull up the legs, but I can also pull up the chart. So when I click on my chart, I now see where this knob is trading, and I can move that around. And the orders you see there is what I've done today. I'm just going to take those off just for 1 second so I can show you. Just what the chart would look like. So now that I've developed this chart, it's going to look like any other chart in our platform. I can change the time frame. I can click to add studies. I can put a Bollinger Band on there. I can put a moving average price on there. I can expand it. I can make it a little bigger, shrink it both ways. So once you have that created, and again, it's somewhat limitless in terms of what you can create on the system. In other words, I'm picking a knob just because I'm familiar with it. I know they're open right now so we can see some pricing and see some good market activity. But if you're trying to do an S&P Dow, if you're trying to do oil, gold, or Brent, crude, whatever you're looking to do, as long as you have permission to see those markets on your screen, then you can activate those. And you can create whatever you want, look at the charts, do all your analysis, and have it there. And of course, once I do that, then I'm going to have these as safe strategies up on the top. For example, I created a weak corn earlier, which doesn't do me a whole lot of good to say trade right now because they're in pre-open. But you can see that I created a corn wheat market, and I can go ahead and put orders in there for the pre-open tonight, put a volume in there. And so now I have that sitting there ready to go in for tonight's opening at 7 o'clock. So anytime you create a template, it will be in here. Nice part about it is you can always go at any time and click edit. Cancel that. I'll do the wheat corn. I can go in there and edit. You can see for the wheat corn that I have it on net change. I have my back out strategy and back out pulls enabled, and then my legs. I was doing a one-to-one to this particular relationship, trying to buy the wheat and sell the corn. Another thing I should mention here on the strategy board is you can do more than 2 legs. So you see I have the wheat and corn here. I can add another leg down here. Maybe I can add the oil. You could do a crush spread, for example. If I want to come down here and add the beans, I could certainly do that and put in a bean ratio. You could also take what the exchange has as standard spreads. So I could take a wheat calendar spread against another wheat calendar spread, a butterfly against a butterfly. So there's lots of creative, innovative ways that you can create something you think is unique to your trading style and to what the market is showing you right now, and create those spreads, be able to chart them, be able to trade them, be able to watch that activity. So you can kind of get very creative in terms of the number of legs you can add, constantly changing your multipliers and your ratios to accommodate a moving marketplace. For example, I know every couple of weeks the CME will send out a note changing the ratio of a knob. I've seen it go from 10 to 6, 9 to 5 a few years ago, to a 3 to 1, to a 2 to 1. A couple of times they've had a 1 to 1, but for the most part, I think recently it's been a 2 to 1. But again, because you're creating your own, you don't have to follow their guidelines. You can make up whatever spreads you want.
Hey, Brian, so there's a question from Arb. He's asking if you can confirm that when you created that custom chart, that it's following the definition that you created in the strategy.
Yes, that'd be correct. In other words, we're looking to create a chart based off some implied price in this trade off of your criteria. So if you pulled up a knob chart from the CME exchange supported spread, it may not look exactly like the one you created if you have different type parameters in there. The same thing if you did, like an oil, crude, or what have you. Yes. So the answer is definitely yes. You're developing your own customized spread. and the chart is going to be based off that information.
Okay. And what happens if you have an extra leg? What does the chart look like?
I mean, if you had 3 legs as part of the spread?
Right.
Let's see, I can do, let's see if I do this. If I edit this, let's see if I can do a knob versus 2s and 5s and see that. So I can add a 2 here and there and do the March. If I buy that as a 1, let's see if that updates to, get rid of this so I can update it again. So again, I'm not maybe necessarily creating a true spread that someone may do.
Right.
You know, I put the 2 years in there with the 5s and 10s, but it's going to chart what activity it sees those 3 markets do. What I mean by that is the combination of the multipliers, the ratios that you've created. So just because a 2-year or a 5-year is trading in the world doesn't mean we're charting. We only care if it's trading as that spread. So if we watch the implies and the prices for those 3 commodities trading based on what you're asking for, that's what we're going to plot. So, you know, you could definitely put up different, you know, combinations of spreads up there, you know, exchange support, I mean, and see a different chart than what you custom created. We're only looking for those specific implied prices and strategies that you've created. And we're looking for those prices and then formulating that chart. So in other words, if we see a gap, or you see here doesn't look like anything traded for the last couple of minutes there, doesn't mean, you know, 2s and 5s and 10s didn't trade. Just a combination of those didn't trade during that time period. So
Okay. Another question from Arb. He says, wouldn't 2 notes to 1 bond be closer to 90 than the 35 shown on the DOM or chart?
Say that again. A 2 to 1 knob would mean what?
He's saying, wouldn't it? I think he's saying, wouldn't it plot closer to 90 than the 35 shown on the DOM or chart?
Let me go back and take my. Remove that. Cancel this. Okay, so is he asking about the price ladder here?
Yeah, I believe so. Do you see his question? To make sure I'm reading it right.
Actually, I don't. I see a chat set. Oh, I'm going to expand the questions. Sorry. Yeah, for some reason, never likes to expand that question section. Really too much. What is it? That's if I'm reading it correctly, and please tell me if I'm not. The 35 that you see in this chart, or any of these numbers here, that's quoting the knob in terms of a strength or weakness. It's not a price per se. So when I used to trade the knob, people would quote the knob as being, hey, it's trading too weak, it's trading too strong. In this case, the price you see online right now, you know, I would say it's trading at, you know, even to a half tick strong. And you can relate those to individual rate prices based on the net changes. But it's not, I guess I'm not sure what he means by 90, but don't think of that as a 35. That's just the number of ticks strong or weak that the knob is trading in relation to the 30, the 10-year and the 30 in terms of net change relationship.
Right, got it. Okay, Chris has a question. He says, does it only send the orders if the parameters are met, or is there a way to prevent going over the quote to fill ratio?
Yeah, so these are orders that are going to sit on your local client. So they don't enter the market until it sees an opportunity. So in our case here, if I was trying to buy the knob at even, I don't have any working orders in there until I think I can buy it even, and it's supposed to be like a boom boom, buy the notes, sell the bonds, and that's it. So then the other, that's what he's asking in the scenarios that I went over earlier about the, the slop and the payout would be, missing a leg and then giving an edge to at least put a spread on, if you will, or giving yourself a little room saying, okay, I like to buy evens, but I'll buy halves if I have to. So nothing is resting. And even with that sniper mentality of waiting in the background and then jumping into the marketplace, that's another reason why we do a meet or cancel. So if we think we can get something that jumps in there, if we miss it, we'll cancel it for you faster than you could, so you're not hung out there if the market bounces back towards you.
Okay.
Let's see here. And then for a quick one, if you didn't want to go all the way back to the edit function, you can always click here, and it will tell you what parameters you have, and you can change your slop and payout. So, if you're in the middle of a trade and things are getting really accurate, I'm not asking you to go back to the main, which I have hidden back here. This is why we do this. I don't have to go back there to make basic edits. I can come here. I'm not touching the ratio of the multiplier, but I can change all the slop and payout factors. If I see the market move around, I have orders all over the place. But the nice part is you see them on here as you see me working orders like this. And I'm long one, so I'll try to sell that one. But the key is that you can't forget about the other pieces of the platform that we have, which is like our order book and our account board. This is telling me my working orders, what I've got filled, getting my pricing. Then I can always look down here to my account board to tell me what my overall positions are. So even in this case, what we do is I'll show the knob down here as a one lot long, and the reason I show parentheses on there because I have it broken down into legs up here for you. So I have a synthetic spread up there, and now I can go see the legs. Because we have people that they may use this sniper feature to get into a trade and then leg manually out, or vice versa, or a combination thereof. So it's nice to see that you trade it as a knob and you see that position, but you always see the individual legs and the individual positions, and you go there and react to those either manually or with some of the back out and slot features that we covered earlier. And again, this is something that I know we've talked about before. We finally feel like we have a good, stable, strong beta version. We have some people here locally that are trying it out for us and giving us some more feedback. So our hope is that things go very well in the next few weeks, and we can try to make some sort of live launch with this in the very near future. And once that happens, the nice part will be if anyone out there wants to go out and sign up for our simulator, that will automatically incorporate the sniper stuff in the sim environment, so you can go in there and play with different ratios and combinations, see if it works for you, well before you have to go live and start playing.
Okay, good.
So that's my talk on the sniper. I'll move to chart trading unless there's any last questions about that.
There's another couple of questions that Arb has, but I think it's going to be best if he emails you offline maybe. He does ask one question that you can maybe address right now. He says, can you trade single stock futures and single stock futures against underlying equities?
I'm going to say no, because years ago we had single stock futures through the CBO. So we ripped to their API and had their price flow and execution ability. We stopped it because nobody was using it. But even if that was still true today, if we had customer demand, we could always add that. But we are not tied into equities. So even if we had that, the answer would be no, because I don't have an equity fee. I'm assuming it means stocks, cash, et cetera, GE, Microsoft. I don't have that fee to then offset against.
Right. Got it. All right. So what else did you want to show us today, Brian?
So let me just cancel this for 1 minute. So you saw a little bit of that when I showed about chart trading, when I showed the sniper stuff. But just for an example, I'm going to go into the 2-year here and go into a chart. So I just bring up a basic 15-minute chart. And what we find out, I think we put this out a few months ago, is that a lot of people are starting to look at charts. They have their Bollinger Bands or moving average lines, et cetera, on there, and they really, use that as key indicators or trade-off of, instead of looking, at the traditional, what a lot of guys look at would be, this ladder format. So I'll slide that over for a second. So what we did was we add this button here called Enable Chart Trading. So you notice that once I do that, I'm getting kind of the traditional, blue-red over here, just much like you see in my contract window or price ladder. And what you're able to do is, depending on, I can move the scale, as wide as I want to make it a little bigger. But what I can do is, as I click on here, if I'm not exactly sure the exact price I'm clicking on, it doesn't really matter because we give you this little price tick. So you don't have to worry about having pinpoint accuracy of where you're clicking. You notice we give you a number of different ticks to look at, and I can always scroll to see different prices if I want to. Once I see that price I want, I can put a volume in there, and I can add that trade. And what I'll do is I'll go back to the properties, and I'll go back to my display. Oops, put the volume in there. So you notice that once I click that, then it's displaying to me that I'm working one at 109, 157. And even tells me by one, so I'm looking at one lot there. We make it real convenient to click that cancel button. We also make it convenient that once it's working on the ladder that I can drag and drop it. So if I want to go lower, I go down there, use my price ladder again, confirm that I want 55s, and I enter that again. I can do that obviously on the sell side, put in numerous orders. And you also notice that when I hit my ticket, I can click up here, and I give you options for different order types. So T is for trailing, S for stop, stop limit, stop same limit, and market if touched. So if I do a standard stop up here above the market, I have to shrink this down so you can see that. So now I have my limit working below the market, and I have a stop above the market. And you notice when I click that, I can freeze my chart so it can't go up and down. If I click this little A in the corner, I can now move it up and down to find my stop. So depending on how much you shrink your chart or how small you make it, determines how much you can see. So I'm going to unclick that just so I can see all three orders for a second. And along with the stop, like anything else, I can drag and drop that up to a higher level and keep moving my stops higher. And again, I have the ability to do my one cancel. Or if you notice, you see the same symbol, black X with a red circle up here. I click that to cancel all my orders. Also on top, you'll see that I'm in March. I can leave that as a 1. So now as I go down here and click this, it defaults to 1 for me. So I can always basically do a quick double click and put a 1 lot in the market. And again, cancel that or drag and drop it. So I am going to get out of that. I'm just going to buy one up here so you can see that one of the reasons why we always had the ladder up here is you saw your net position in P&L, and you also saw it down here in the account book. So we try to add the same features you get off the chart. So if you are a big chart person, you like to do all your trading and analysis and view the information, that we put everything on the chart as well. So you can see here that I'm net 1, and it gives me a P&L. You can also see the net change for the day. I can also come into the properties and add in a position and P&L chart below if I like. So now I've taken this chart and I can expand down here to show my net position and my net P&L. So it doesn't look like a lot when I'm just trading my little 1 lot there, but if I was trading very actively back and forth, it's kind of nice to see a chart of your position with P&L. You can use that to analyze yourself in terms of when you're active, what kind of P&L swings you're seeing, and so forth. Just get a better idea of how the market and how your trading is going. Also, you'll notice that the blue X on the screen. What we do is we also plot your fills. So as you saw, my working order goes in. Oops. Let's see if I got. Oh, sorry, they just closed. Let me find something else. That's okay. So what happens is I put working orders in. As you saw earlier, you saw the black X, the red circle, my price times my quantity. Once I get filled, I put an X on the screen. Again, everything we do is configurable, but again, we have that on there. So if you look back after the day's over and you see a bunch of blue X's for buys and red X's for sells, you can get an idea of where in the chart compared to Bollinger Bands, etc., of where your trades were occurring. And again, kind of use that for analysis. I think, let me see, as we pick up an S&P here since that's open. So if I go back to my S&Ps and enable trading, so what I was trying to show earlier is I show that as a working order, and then I'll show my X as a float order. And again, once you start doing things like adding some Bollinger Bands or an average lines, and you can kind of get an idea over the course of the day of where you were actively trading, where your fills came from in relation to the chart, in relation to all your different studies and ideas. And as I did on the 2 years, I like to come and add my chart information down at the bottom so I can follow that as the day goes on as well to get an idea of what I've been doing. And again, all the information is on top. Yes, you can still, go here to see your positions. Yes, you can still look down at the account board to get the positions. One of the great things is as you're moving around, if you accidentally X out of something, you have your account board up here. I can simply right-click pretty much anywhere and say chart, and it brings the chart back up again. I can enable trading, and I'm back in business. So even if you don't have a lot of screen space, whether it be because you're on a tablet or a small laptop, you're traveling, you don't have to necessarily keep a bunch of items up on our screen. A lot of them can be X'd out, and once you're keeping up something, whether it be a pull board or account board, it's a simple right-click and chart, and you see what you need to see again, enable trading, and then you see your X's, you see your working orders. Forgot I had that in there, so I go back and cancel that. And now I'm back in good shape. I see that I'm long one, so I'll put a sale back in there to try to get out of that. So we hope that for those of you that trade our platform, you find that trading our charts can be a better convenient option for you to use, especially with screen space to be limited. We put up a bunch of different ladders or a bunch of different quote boards. The charting can be a nice way to get a visual idea of not only where the market is, but where your orders are in relation to what you've done during different studies, whether it be an average line or Bollinger Bands, etc. And that's the nuts and bolts, really, of the chart trading. If anyone has questions on that before I just kind of wrap up with a few, comments about data, if you will.
Okay. I don't see any questions on the board right now, but we'll see if anybody has some that they want to ask. And then on the data feed, when you start talking about data, I had a question about whether I'm remembering this correctly. Do you guys offer some sort of a, not just delayed data, but like a replay type of data? You understand what I'm asking?
Right. I'll explain like this. I don't want to use the word replay because people ask that before if they can go back and rewind and watch something. So in our simulator, we have, in our live platform, the only option you're going to see is 10-minute delay. So all that means, obviously, is you're seeing the real-time market 10 minutes after the fact. In our simulator, which people can sign up for practice, is you'll see a 30-minute delayed, an hour delayed, I believe 1 day and 5-day delay. And what that means is if I click on the 5-day delay, I'm going back to last Thursday and just seeing the data from Thursday. It's not a pause, play, rewind, fast forward.
Right.
When you log on and pull up that contract, just like you would pull up a live contract today, whatever time it is 4 o'clock my time, you're just going to start seeing whatever data was traded at Thursday at 4 o'clock.
Okay, makes sense. All right, I don't see any questions on the chart trading.
Okay. My last comment is what Mike was referring to there in terms of delayed data. So as many of you know who trade a lot of CME products, they instituted some market data fees really last year. There are a lot of people who traded for a long time, so they were grandfathered in. So really this year, is really when fees really started for the majority of people. And I'd be curious to know if it's not today, if it's through just making comments on Big Mike's website and the forums. If you guys are seeing those out there, what's everyone feel about them? Because one reason that we jumped in late last year and added delayed data is we saw a lot of customers who were trading a lot of equities, whether it be Dow, and S&Ps, and NASDAQ, et cetera, but they also have permission to see NYMEX and COMEX. They were not trading those actively, but everyone loves to see a crude quote or gold quote or what it happens to be. So we offer a delayed data option on our platform for no fee because the CME does not charge us for 10-minute delayed data. So we did see a great number of users between December and January of this year that went in and changed a lot of their options to see that. Again, I'm more curious down the road, it doesn't have to be discussed today, if those options are available to you via some other platforms or some other vehicle, and if people find that useful. Because I know there's a lot of kickback and frustration over the CME valuation of the fees, as well as I believe they raised exchange fees as well, kind of a double whammy from those people. But market data seems to be a very sore spot with people, and we think we handle it quite well because everything's done really under your control for our website. You can log on, change your settings whenever you like during the month, and you can build accordingly. So it is a fairly seamless process. It's more a curiosity on my part to understand if it's working that well for others, and if people are seeing a big reason to definitely have delayed data as part of a future offering from CTS as well. And last, let me just quickly mention, last time I think we were on Big Mike's last year, we did a big option presentation for you. If there's any options users out there, I'd love to hear from you on the forums because we've made a lot of changes since then. I'm sure I'll schedule another time with Mike down the road, but we have made considerable changes to our option platform, our analyzer, and our sheets. So if there's some heavy option users out there, definitely love to hear from you and get you set up on a simulator. And we can have you call in one day and give you a quick little webinar on what we're doing with options.
Yeah, Brian.
And lastly, I'll wrap up by saying the two things were. Okay.
Sorry, man. There are a lot of people that are selling options on futures. There's a very popular thread that's got right now over 4,000 posts. So I'll send you the link. You might check it out. There's some people in there that maybe aren't aware of what you're doing, and they're probably the best qualified people on BMT to give you feedback on that.
That'd be perfect. I really appreciate that. And the last things I'll mention, I'll let you guys get back to your day, is as far as future development, I know people on the website asked us before, and we're finally getting around to development. And that's, for lack of a better word, I'm calling it multi-exit OCO type orders. In other words, you want to sell an S&P at 9.5 or sell 5 at 9.5. And you want to have multi-legs of stops and limits. We have that now, but just on a one-to-one basis. So if I sell 5 at 9.5, I can just pick a limit and pick a stop for all 5 contracts. We're going to create a widget, if you will, that's going to allow you to pick out, let's say 5 different exits on top, 5 different exits below. So that's something we're playing with right now. We hope to have out soon. And the last thing, which would be very good for the demo for that I want to mention to you in case of interest, is we are in the final stages of being able to release a true mobile app. So CTS has always had I call a web version or a mobile version, but it was actually going to a website and logging into our platform. So now we've written a true Android app that's available, that will be available soon in the Google Play Store. And we found it's much more robust. We have a true ladder on there, like you see here, with the different stops, features, trailing features that you see here. It's gone through great testing in terms of not timing out. People now put their phone down at night, fall asleep, and hear a ding for a bill notification, if you will. So it's a much more robust system than we've had with our traditional or current web trader version. So I hope to be able to announce that sometime in early March. And again, it's something where we're going to be able to put in a simulation form, have you guys come out to the store and grab that and play with it. But we're very excited just to finally get that thing released. So we think that's going to grab a lot of attention. Just with people being so mobile today, they'll be on their phone or laptop or pads, if you will, that be able to have that type of mobility with a lot more robust features than we have in the current WebTrader version.
Yeah, that sounds pretty awesome. I wish I had something like that because I'm always using my Interactive Brokers app, and I have to tell you, it's not very good.
Right. Yeah, and you know, we were equally criticized at some points with WebTrader not being stable and not having a lot of bells and whistles. So we put a lot of time and effort into this one. The testing is going well with us internally and a couple of users we have in town. And if things progress, you know, let's say we kind of have a March date in mind that we'd like to release that. And like I said, very difficult for me to come on here and demo a mobile product, but we can put some screenshots, mic online, and some documentation on how it works. So as people go out there and want to try it, at least they have a little something to lean on in terms of how it works.
Right. Sounds good. Okay, so Brian, before we go, anybody that's watching the recording later or whatnot, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you with any follow-up questions?
They can either do it through Big Mike's. We watch that thread every day. If not, my email is Brian, B-R-I-A-N, at ctsfutures.com.
Okay. Very good, man. All right, so if anybody has questions, then there you go. You can email Brian. It's Brian at ctsfutures.com. Otherwise, there's a thread on BMT. If you do a search for AMA space CTS, you'll find it. That's the Ask Me Anything thread that Brian was just talking about. Okay, guys. Well, thank you, Brian. I appreciate it, and look forward to this coming out of beta, and also look forward to doing the Android webinar with you.
Great. Thanks for your time, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Bye.